Welcome to the new season. This is probably the biggest preseason change we ever had, with a ton of changes to the map, new jungle monsters, the new map that's completely changed top lane, mid lane, bottom, and the jungle as well as the river. So this is a huge season, but probably the most changes are for the items. So in this video let's go over all the new, old and removed items and see what's changed here. Like we already knew, the mythic items are removed, so you can do any combination you want right now with the remaining ones. And we also got some new items, some of them don't even have finished art yet, and some reworked items as well as some returning items. So let's go over everything. First, this is the new support item, Words Atlas. Now there's only going to be this one, you won't be able to pick multiple ones, it's the only item for supports and it has the same quest for any kind of support. It still gives gold per second, base health regen, base mana regen and health, and it has the quest that upgrades it at 500 gold, that lets you put words back. And you gain this gold by either killing minions, that will also give your nearest ally gold, or by damaging abilities and attacks against champions or buildings. And at 500 gold it upgrades into this runic compass, that lets you place words, and then at 1000 gold it upgrades yet again into this bounty of words, and this item can be upgraded in one of those 5 new items as well. So this is the big support item choice. You can do the Celestial Opposition, that reduces incoming damage based if they're melee or ranged, and it lingers for 2 seconds after taking damage from a champion. When the shield breaks, it also unleashes a shockwave around you that slows nearby enemies by 50%. Solstice Slide gives you a new passive that slowing or immobilizing an enemy champion restores health and grants movement speed for 4 seconds to you and a nearby ally with the lowest health. Blood Song also as a passive, after using an ability, your next attack is enchanted with an additional physical damage on hit damage, and if the target is a champion, it also applies Expose Weakness, increases the damage they take for 6 seconds. Dream Maker gives you a blue dream bubble and a purple dream bubble every 8 seconds. Healing or shielding another ally blows both the dream bubbles to them and empowers them for 3 seconds. Blue bubble reduces incoming damage on the next hit, and purple bubble grants 60 bonus magic damage on the next hit. And Zazak's Realm Spike, dealing ability damage to a champion, causes an explosion at their current location that damages the target and nearby enemies, dealing magic damage and max health damage, capped at 300 against monsters. A lot of the remaining items also have simplified tooltips to make them clearer for new players. Then we have this new item, the Glowing Mote, that gives 5 ability haste that builds up on items that we already had before, like the Kindle Gem. And there are some other minor changes to some of the epic items or legendary items, and we even have this new one too, the Rectress, that gives 20 attack damage and movement speed, and it builds into items like Humus, or this new item Zoomies, or the Hullbreaker. We also have this Tunneler that builds into other items we already had before and new items too, like those two. We'll go over everything. Then you also have this Steel Sigil that builds with attack damage and armor, and then it builds into Guardian's Angel and Death's Dance. The old Hunting guys is back. Same for the Brutalizer with a new icon over there that also builds up into 4 items. Then we have the legendaries. Now all of them are legendaries since we don't have mythics anymore, so we're gonna have a lot more legendaries and you can do better combinations with all of them, instead of being locked in with a mythic item and then only being able to pick some items. So we have the support items we already been through. Then we have this Trailblazer, is the item that won from the vote. It was just 1% above the Eerie Infight from the Shadow Isles that I voted for, but this one won after all. It's a support item that gives you bonus movement speed when moving, and at max speed it creates a trail that speeds up allies champions behind you by 15% of your movement speed. And your next attack discharges the bonus movement speed, and melee champions slow the target by 50% for 1 second. So this is how it works. It builds up when you move, and when it gets to 100, it starts giving this trail behind you, and allies walking on it will also have increased movement speed. And once you use it, it discharges it, and then resets it, and then you can do it again. Pretty cool. Next up, the Hextech Rocket Belt is still here too, Rod of Ages. Then we have a new item here, Downcore, that's for healing and damage, gives ability power, ability haste, and base mana regen, and it also gives you 3% heal and shield power and 5 ability haste for every 100% base mana regen, and also gives you Summoner Spell Haste. Then Humus is still here as a legendary. Then we have Zoomies, that is an assassination item. and it gives you Murder. After being out of combat with champions for 8 seconds, it gives you bonus lethality, and this lethality lasts for 3 seconds after dealing damage to champions. And it also gives you Murder Speed. If a champion dies within 3 seconds of damaging them, you gain decay movement speed for 1.5 seconds. Then there's the Iceborne Gauntlet. Then we have Malignance. This is another new item that gives ability power, mana, and ability haste, and also gives you haste for your ultimate, and damaging a champion with your ultimate burns the ground beneath them, dealing magic damage and reducing their magic resist. So this is another interesting new item, good for mages, looks like this, and its radius is also increased based on the damage done. Next up we have Storm Surge. This one gives ability power, magic penetration and movement speed, and it has 2 passives. This is pretty much an AP assassin item. So the first one is that dealing 35% of a champion's maximum health within 2.5 seconds, applies Squall to them and grants movement speed for 2 seconds. And Squall means that after 2 seconds, strike the target, dealing magic damage, and if the target dies before the strike, it detonates immediately, damaging an enemy champion around them, and also grants bonus gold. Eclipse. Unending Despair, it's another new one, giving health, armor and ability haste, and every 7 seconds while in combat with champions, deals magic damage to nearby enemy champions, and also heals for the damage done. Hollow Radiance is another new one that gives health, magic resist and base health regen, and it gives the Immolate aura. Taking or dealing damage causes you to begin dealing magic damage per second to nearby enemies, that's increased against minions for 3 seconds. And taking or dealing damage refreshes the duration of this effect. And also killing an enemy deals magic damage in an area around them. Then we have Crypt Bloom, another new one for magic penetration, giving ability power, magic penetration and ability haste, and a new passive, that whenever you get a takedown on an enemy champion within 3 seconds of damaging them, you create a healing nova on their location that heals allies based on your ability power. Then we have Volcanic Cyclosword, giving attack damage, lethality and ability haste, and 2 passives, dashes and stealths, stack energized 75% faster, and your energized attacks deal bonus damage, and if melee, slow enemies as well. Another new one that doesn't have an icon yet, Koenic Rumkern, that gives health, magic resist, based health regen, and Mage Bane. After not taking magic damage for 12 seconds, gain a magic shield for 20% of your maximum health. Then we have Caster's Companion, that gives ability power, mana and ability haste, and it gains a shot charge every 3 seconds up to 6 maximum, and then fire. Damaging abilities consume all shot charges to deal additional magic damage to the target and 1 additional target nearby per charge. If there are insufficient targets in range, for each remaining shot, repeat the damage on the primary target, dealing reduced damage. So it charges up to 6 times like this, and when you use an ability, it consumes the charges on everyone. And if there's only one target, it consumes them all on the same target. Liandry's Torment 2, Riftmaker remains, so it has some reduced stats. All the mythics that got turned into legendaries now have reduced stats a little bit. Ginsu remains too. Then we have this new item Hubris for assassins, giving attack damage, lethality and ability haste, and killing champions creates a statue of yourself, and when a champion that you have damaged within the first 3 seconds dies, you gain increased attack damage per statue for 60 seconds. And those statues that you make are in your fountain, but this is a temporary implementation. We'll see how this works when it's done, because it's just gonna get filled with a bunch of statues over here in the position you killed the enemy champion, so this is interesting. We have Terminus 2, that's a new item for offense and defense that gives you attack damage and attack speed, and the Shadow passive that attacks apply on-hit damage, and it also alternates between light and dark on-hit each attack. Light attacks grant armor and magic resist for 5 seconds, and dark attacks grant armor penetration and magic penetration. This is a really interesting item. I bet it's yet another item that will work for Katarina. So one stack gives you one of them and the other one gives you the other one, so you can stack both of them until you stack them both up to 5. It's a pretty interesting item, I would say. Then you have the Experimental Hexblade, giving attack damage, attack speed, health, and also gives you 30 haste to your ultimate, and after casting your ultimate, you gain attack speed and bonus movement speed. Heartsteel, Stridebreaker. We have another new one, Sundered Sky, giving attack damage, health, ability haste, and the first attack against a champion crits for 150% and also heals you for damage and mixing health. Jacques Shaw the Protein, Zonia's Hourglass, that also has a very simplified tooltip over here, Infinity Edge, that's now back to being a legendary, Navori Quickblade, Trinity Force also back to being a legendary and giving less stats. Then we have Profane Hydra, giving attack damage, lethality and ability haste. And Cleave, attacks deal physical damage to nearby enemies in an AoE, so it's a cleave attack, and also you can activate it, dealing physical damage to nearby enemies, and this damage is increased to enemies below 30% health. So it goes like this, and you can also explode it to use it. As for the boots, they seem to all remain the same, and we still have all the potions and elixirs we also had before. And that's about it for the new items, quite a lot of changes. This alongside all the Baron changes and map changes we have, it's going to make it quite an interesting season. But you know what they say about the Void? Change is good, and this is going to make the game a lot more interesting with all the map changes, monster changes and everything, so I like what they did, and I wish they would do this every season. Map changes are some of the biggest changes they can do, and this will keep the game really fresh, so let me know what you think about them so far, and what you think about all the new items, and which ones are your favorite, and which ones are you sad to see removed. For now, the stopwatch is removed, since Zonia's just built directly like this. Crown of the Shattered Queen is also removed, Everfrost, Leeching Leer, Demonic Embrace, Night Harvester, Luden's Tempest, Duskblade, Prowler's Claw, Turbo Chem Tank, Radiant Virtue, Even Shroud, Gargoyle Stoneplate, Aegis of the Legion, Lifewell Pendant, Chemtech Putrifier, Chalice of Harmony, Gore Drinker, Divine Sunderer, Silvermere Dawn, Iron Spike Whip, Rage Knife and Gale Force. All those items got removed, so that's quite a lot of removed items over there. Let me know which one of those you will miss the most. Leave a like or I'll remove your nose, and thanks for watching.